Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are talking about Disney and Disney Plus's recent earnings and their growth. I have been a bit of a bear on Netflix over the past couple months. Now, Netflix has had a bit of a rally from like 180 to around 220 or 230. I still don't really believe in the long-term potential of Netflix. Obviously, it's going to be around for a while. It's still going to be a great company. I just don't believe in their business model, and I also don't believe in sort of the content farming that they're doing, given the nature of user-generated content that exists. So Disney Plus and their earnings was very surprising for me because it showed what the value is of true IP when actually building a pretty big business in the context of content. Disney streaming subscriber growth blows past estimates as company beats on top and bottom line. So Disney posted better than expected results on both the top and bottom line, bolstered by increased spending at its domestic theme parks. That's one part of Disney that has nothing to do with Disney Plus, but still is good because people are getting back out of the house. And they also reported that Disney Plus subscriptions rose to 152 million during the fiscal third quarter, higher than the 147 million the analysts had forecasted, which led to Disney stock, as you guys can see, doing pretty well at 120, obviously down from highs of 200 back in February 2021, but definitely better than some of the lows that it was at when it was around the 92 range. So let's talk a bit about how their streaming business is doing. At the end of its fiscal third quarter, Hulu had 46.2 million subscribers, ESPN at 22.8. Combined, Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus have over 221 million streaming subscribers. Now, why is this relevant? Netflix has 220.7 million subscribers by itself globally. Disney Plus and the Disney company in general includes Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus. So when you combine all those three together, you've got an actual competitor against Netflix. Now, Disney Plus as a standalone product has 152 million subscribers, but if you bring in the other stuff that are paying customers, Hulu and ESPN Plus, I mean, you pay for this or you get advertising revenue from it, that's still a pretty significant amount to be able to go against the biggest company in the world. Now, it says something about Netflix, that Netflix can be one independent company and have 220 million versus Disney Plus that has this diversity of content that exists from all these angles to also have 220 million. It's amazing for Netflix, but it does mean that Disney is catching up to them. The streaming space has been a state of upheaval in recent weeks as Netflix disclosed another drop in subscribers and Discovery announced a shift in content strategy. Discovery is now like merging with HBO Max. That's okay. While Netflix expects subscriber growth to rebound, uncertainty has left analysts and investors wondering what the future holds for the wider industry. And that's my concern with Netflix. I personally don't believe their subscriber count is going to grow to some astronomical level. Maybe it might be a very strong value stock that issues a dividend one day, but the idea that Netflix is going to grow to have 800, 900 million subscribers, I personally don't see that because I don't think the content on Netflix justifies people paying for it, and I don't think they can create enough content at the scale of something like a YouTube that has user-generated content or some of these other platforms like TikTok or Instagram to allow Netflix to say we're going to have 1 billion people subscribe to us one day. Like, I personally just don't believe in that. During the fiscal third quarter, Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN combined to lose 1.1 billion, so they did have a loss. Disney's average revenue per user, or their ARPU, for Disney Plus also decreased by 5% in the quarter in the US and Canada due to more customers taking cheaper multi-product offerings. Now, starting December 8th in the US, Disney Plus with commercials will be $8 per month. So you will have to pay $8 a month to get Disney Plus, but you will still get advertisements, which means the price of ad-free Disney Plus will rise 38%, basically 40%, to $11. And this is where momentum is going to increase for Disney. This is why I'm actually a little bit more interested in the company right now, that when you're doing a 40% increase on your content or on your content offering, it's because you believe you have intellectual property that can't be matched. And as a result of having intellectual property that can't be matched, you have the ability to justify that. Now, Netflix also feels that. I think Netflix more so has this sort of like grandfather first mover advantage. People have been using Netflix for so long that it's hard for them to just go away from it. So they can increase the prices, especially if your family uses it. Like, you're just not going to cancel for a couple more bucks. But Disney has a different level. I mean, if you're in watching The Mandalorian, if your kids watch Moana, like if you have kids that are integrated into the Disney Plus universe and are looking for more and more of that Disney Plus content, you're not going to go away from it. You're not going to unsubscribe, especially if the price goes up by a couple bucks. Earnings per share, $1 per 9 cents versus 96 cents expected, so they did well on that. Revenue, $21.5 billion versus $20.96 billion, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And total subscriptions, 152 million versus 147 million expected. Now, it was also big for the parks and also big for the streaming, which is ultimately why we saw the stock bounce the way it did, going from around 90 back July 29th to now 120. Now, the entire market is up as well. If we just go to the S&P real quick and we check that out, S&P's at 423. Remember, it was at 478 in the beginning of the year, so it just barely is down right now. It's not really down. 360 is when we were, 358, we were seeing it actually be down. Now it's at a little bit of a different level. So overall thoughts on what this means for the market and how this implicates Disney. Number one, I still do not think Netflix is a great buy, just primarily because it's it's Netflix. And at the end of the day, a rally in the market, whether it's real or not, will have you thinking, oh, you should have bought Netflix, or oh, you should have bought Disney, or any of these other things. I'm looking towards the fundamentals of what I believe the moats of these companies are. Personally, for Netflix, I just believe user-generated content is going to be more sustainable. And it's when you have these type of bull market rallies where you think, oh, Netflix at $600, that's a deal that, we might as well buy that. And then you realize, and it goes for a lot of other stocks, but then you realize, wait a second, like $600 is pretty expensive for a company that spends $20 billion a year just to make content on their platform. And content, here's the big thing about content, and this is, I guess, we'll end it off on my closing thoughts. Disney Plus has intellectual property that can't be matched. It's content that is almost timeless. You could say it is timeless, right? Snow White, the Beauty and the Beast. Like, these are movies, these are things that will last for a long time. Timeless content has a trade-off with content that is relevant right now. So like, the news is relevant right now, but it's not timeless. So it'll get your attention in the moment, but if you don't create the news tomorrow, then the person who created that news yesterday is irrelevant because they have nothing relevant to say tomorrow. If you take longer periods of time to make more classic pieces of content, yes, it won't be watched as consistently, but it will have more longevity to it because it'll be able to be seen over time. And Disney Plus has created this moat of intellectual property that spans almost 100 years of content that truly is timeless when you really think of this stuff. Now, do they still have to keep adding content? Yes. Do they still have to keep producing nice animated films and different stuff? Absolutely. But it's not at the same level as a Netflix. If a Netflix show comes out and it's binged, the next one has to come out immediately. And my reservations are, how many good original shows can you come up with to produce? Because if you're not doing that, you're licensing shows. And the problem with licensing shows and becoming an aggregator of content is that content will just inevitably go away. Especially, like, they had The Office, they had Friends, and then it went away. And that The Office and Friends is what got people into Netflix. And then, some of them stayed because they were just in and they didn't want to cancel, or some of them canceled because they wanted to follow where their content's going. In the broader scheme of things, I do think Netflix has more competitive advantages than a lot of the other streamers. So it's not really a question of streamers to me. It's a question of, if Disney can put up these types of numbers with not producing as much content as you're producing, and YouTube has user-generated content, and TikTok has user-generated content that at scale produces the level of quality that a Netflix could theoretically produce that takes them years or months to be able to build out. That's what makes me a little bit more bearish when it comes to something like Netflix. When it comes to something like Disney, I am more bullish on it. I don't own any of the stock, but I could see how someone wants to buy the stock given the growth of subscriber numbers and given the intellectual property that truly is timeless at the end of the day. So those are my thoughts on Disney Plus. Let me know if you own the stock or if you are interested in buying Disney. At this moment, I'm not interested in buying anything because I really want to get some more data on what's going on in the market and if this is like some bear market rally or is there actual momentum. Inflation going down definitely makes things obviously a little bit better. So we're gonna see how the CPI and the PPI and all these numbers that seemingly are good are going to affect the overall broader market. It's just going to take some time to see it all play out. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I will see you in the next one.